Listen, grease monkey, if you ever touch a real stick, I'll personally call the medics. Laughter ricocheted across the flight line at Iron Peak Air Command. An F-16C Viper snarled on idle, heat shimmering off its fuselage. Beneath it, Technical Sergeant Maya Torres slid on her creeper, forearms tight on the wrench, sweat dripping from her jaw. She kept working while the jeers poured down. From the hangar shade, Captain Eric Dalton tapped a soda can against his thigh. A month's pay, says Torres never hears a call sign on tower comms unless it's to fetch coffee. Pilots chuckled. Verdict delivered. Maya didn't look up. She never argued. She kept jets alive. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Stories That Salute so you won't miss the next powerful story. Footsteps approached polished Oxfords, not boots. Colonel Grant Holloway appeared like a shadow, uniform creased razor sharp. He scanned the line, then stopped at her toolbox. Maya slid out, snapping to attention, sweat tracking her temple. And you are? His voice was flat, like reading a tag. Technical Sergeant Maya Torres. Why is someone like you on critical systems? This isn't a motorcycle garage. I'm lead technician on this airframe. Sir, post-flight check on the actuator? His eyes found a leather logbook in her drawer. He lifted it, flipped through dawn flights and logged hours. Civilian pilot log. Yes, sir. The book snapped shut. Mechanics don't pretend to be pilots. This stays with me. He tucked it under his arm and walked away. Dalton's laugh floated in from the shade. See women in the Air Force fix planes. They don't fly them. More chuckles. Maya knelt back under the jet, fingers tightening the actuator bolts. She caught the faintest drag in the linkage. A whisper of strain. Her instincts prickled. She wrote it down anyway. Exact and methodical. When she reached for her water bottle, grit shimmered in the mouth like ground glass. She stopped cold, eyes lifting toward Viper R-327 waiting for its next pilot, the sky above burning white. One day, a tower call sign would matter, and when it came, they would know exactly who was listening. By the second week, Technical Sergeant Maya Torres had become more than a punchline. She was a warning. The message spread wordlessly: don't step out of place, or you'll end up like her. Tools disappeared from her kit, only to reappear behind power carts hours later. Maintenance reports she'd filed vanished in the system, relogged under someone else's name. Once, she found fine grit poured into her water bottle, small acts that all carried the same message. You don't belong here. She ate alone, worked alone. When the desert nights cooled, she walked the perimeter fence, the white floodlights turning the row of F-16 Vipers into gleaming silhouettes. Each jet looked untouchable, their shark noses angled toward the horizon like predators. But Maya knew better. She knew machines whispered their secrets if you listened long enough. Morning came hard, the light sharp-edged, cutting across Hangar 6. Maya stood with rag in hand, eyes scanning the main flight line. That's when she heard it sharp, too quick. The snap of a pre-flight checklist flipped without care. Her gaze locked on Lieutenant Jason Kincaid, a young pilot, moving along the fuselage of Viper R-327. He rushed through inspection, pen tapping boxes as fast as his hand could scribble. Maya narrowed her eyes when he reached the wing root. The flap actuator was still partially exposed from recent maintenance. He tested it with one hand, abrupt, careless, too much force. Clack. It was faint, but it cut through the flight line din like a gunshot only she could hear. Maya froze. That sound didn't belong in a healthy actuator. It was the hollow tick of a fatigue part pushed beyond tolerance. The rag slipped from her hand, falling unnoticed to the concrete. She was already striding toward the jet. "Captain," she called out, voice low but edged with steel. "Hold up." Kincaid turned, brow furrowed beneath his visor. "Sergeant, I need to take another look at that actuator. I think there's a fault." He frowned, annoyed. It's fine. I followed procedure. I heard it pop under load, Maya said, stepping closer. That's not normal. Kincaid's jaw tightened. With respect. Sergeant, you're not cleared to re-inspect my bird. His voice hardened. I've got a launch window. You want me to miss it over some noise you think you heard? Her eyes flashed. If that actuator fails mid-flight, you won't get to worry about your launch window. The shadow fell across both of them before he could answer. What's going on here? Colonel Grant Holloway's tone was already loaded, his presence like a blade pressed to skin. His gaze flicked between the pilot and the mechanic. Nothing, sir, Kincaid said quickly, stiffening. Just about to taxi. Maya drew a breath. Sir, I believe there's a defect in the flap actuator. I need clearance to Holloway's hand cut the air, silencing her. You have an assignment. Sergeant, return to your post. Now. The words hit harder than the desert sun. Kincaid snapped his checklist closed and climbed the ladder, pulling the canopy down with a thud. Maya stood rooted, the sound of her own heartbeat loud in her ears. Somewhere deep inside, every instinct screamed that 327 wasn't ready. She could already picture its sky, altitude, metal under stress. And she knew next time. It wouldn't be laughter carrying across the flight line. It would be a Mayday. From the shadows of Hangar 6, Maya Torres watched as Viper No. 327 call sign Eagle-7 rolled toward the taxiway. Sunlight flashed along its canopy, and then the afterburners lit, tearing a white-hot scar across the runway. Dust rattled from the rafters. For a moment it looked like every other launch at Iron Peak Air Command. Routine, controlled, predictable. But that afternoon, the rhythm broke. The tower's cadence faltered, a gap where an update should have been. Then a clipped transmission crackled through the ComNet Eagle-7. Repeat. Confirm status. Maya froze. Eagle-7, that's 327. Static burst back. Then fragments, jagged and raw flap control, negative response. Primary comms down. Her blood ran cold. She rushed to the hangar door, across the desert sky. A speck jerked in uneven lines, struggling against gravity's pull. At 18,000 feet, Lieutenant Jason Kincaid fought with a machine that no longer obeyed. The decision wasn't a choice. It was instinct. Maya grabbed her toolkit and ran. Boots hammered the tarmac as she cut toward the control tower. Master keys slid into the maintenance corridor door, and she pushed inside. The comm room hummed. Racks of electronics flickering like a dying heartbeat. One glance told her everything. The backup comm array was drawing unstable power. Status lights pulsing erratically. A black lead hung loose. Copper shielding scorched where it had arced against the frame. Kill power to the backup module. She snapped at a nearby tech. That'll drop the last comm link to Eagle-7. It's already useless. Give me 30 seconds. She stripped the cabling, fingers moving faster than thought. Heat seared her skin as she crimped a fresh line from her kit. Sparks kissed her knuckles, left angry red welts. But she didn't stop. The hiss of dead air shifted. Then a human voice bled through. Tower, this is Eagle-7 fuel critical approach unstable. Maya slammed her kit shut and bolted upstairs. The glass-walled tower erupted as she entered. Screens flashed red. Controllers shouted updates. And at the center, Colonel Holloway's eyes locked on radar tracking Eagle-7's erratic descent. Technical Sergeant Torres. He barked. You're out of line. She didn't break stride. I reconnected your backup channel. You've got partial comms. You were not authorized. Her voice cut sharper. Do you want him down alive or not? The room froze. Holloway's jaw clenched, but he didn't stop her as she grabbed a spare headset. Eagle-7, this is Iron Peak Tower. Do you copy? A ragged voice bled through. Tower, barely. Controls, compromised. Fuel, low. Maya steadied her breathing. I'm Technical Sergeant Torres. I worked on your bird. You've got a flap actuator failure. Primary hydraulics are gone. I'll walk you through the override. Her tone was firm. Surgical, red lever, auxiliary flap release, 2-stage, push forward, hold 3 seconds. Now bleed speed in increments. Alarms wailed across the tower. A wind shear warning flashed red. Maya didn't flinch. Eagle-7 abort primary. Divert to secondary runway. You'll catch the arrestor cable across the desert. The lone spec angled down. Nose high, engine straining, in the tower. No one dared breathe. At the last 100 meters, Kincaid dropped the tail hook and the jet roared toward the runway like a wounded predator that might not survive the landing. The jet slammed into the arrestor cable with a whip crack that echoed across the desert. The steel line snapped taut, dragging Eagle-7 to a bone-jarring halt. Dust swirled across the runway as the F-16C Viper trembled but stayed intact. Tower Eagle-7 down safe. Applause broke out in the control room, voices raised in relief, but Technical Sergeant Maya Torres didn't linger to bask in it. She lowered the headset, turned without a word, and walked toward the stairwell. Her burned knuckles stung with each step, the pain reminding her of what it cost to bring one jet home alive. The next morning, the debrief gathered the entire line unit. Lieutenant Jason Kincaid, still pale from his ordeal, stood before the assembled officers. Eagle-7 went up for routine training. He said, voice steady now, midway through. I lost flap control and all comms. I was running out of fuel and out of options. Then a voice came through a mechanic, Technical Sergeant Torres. She knew my bird better than I did. She walked me through a manual override I didn't even know existed. I'm alive because of her. The room shifted, silent in the weight of his words. Then Kincaid added, firmly, I've submitted a formal recommendation for the Air Force Commendation Medal and her immediate entry into officer training. Maya's eyes flicked to the back of the room. Colonel Grant Holloway said nothing. His jaw locked like stone. That evening, a knock on her barracks door. Holloway stood there, her logbook in his hand, the same one he'd taken like contraband. Staff Sergeant, he said, voice low. I was wrong. My judgment was flawed. You'll report to the training office at 800. He handed her the logbook back. For the first time, his eyes carried something other than disdain. Respect. Reluctant but real. The training field was brutal. Scorched asphalt strips. Rattling prefab classrooms. A skeletal tower that looked like it might collapse in the wind. Maya stood in a fresh flight suit. Logbook clipped to her board, heart hammering beneath the fabric. Her first drill takeoff and pattern flight in the T-7A Red Hawk. Halfway through the final turn, the instructor barked into her headset. Engine failure. Respond. Her body reacted before thought. Throttle back, rudder compensate, trim for glide. The frame steadied. She brought the nose down, wheels hitting firm and centered, stopping with just 100 feet to spare. The instructor said nothing, but she caught the small nod through his visor. By week 3, the drills escalated, 4 ship formations, simulated live fire runs. When the lead was shot down, Maya rolled into position without waiting for orders. Target lined, crosshairs steady, trigger squeeze clean. Her round struck within the window. The final evaluation an unfamiliar test platform. Midway through, warning lights lit actuator signal loss. The ghost of Eagle-7's near death, but she didn't panic. Diagnostics. Adjust inputs manually by landing. The glitch had stabilized. When it ended, Holloway slid an insignia box across the table. Staff Sergeant Maya Torres, welcome to the Officer Corps. The ceremony was brief, on the flight line, with an F-35 Lightning II clawing into the sky overhead. Kincaid pinned the new bars to her collar. Lieutenant, he murmured with a grin, you've got lead next month. Don't make me regret it. Maya allowed herself the smallest smile. Wouldn't dream of it. But as night fell over Iron Peak, the desert sky rumbled with sorties still launching. She knew her real test was only beginning. Lieutenant, you've got lead next month in the joint exercise. Don't make me regret it. Maya allowed herself the smallest smile. Wouldn't dream of it. Captain. That night she walked to the far end of the runway, where sodium lights faded into desert dark. Stars hung low, and the wind carried the scent of jet fuel and the distant growl of afterburners. She thought of her first day the stairs. The small cuts meant to push her out. Each flight, each drill, each choice had been a brick in the path that led here. Tomorrow, that path would stretch further, out into air where nothing stayed still and nothing was given. She closed her eyes, letting the thunder of another sortie roll through her chest. Mechanics still worked under amber hangar lights, their hands steady, their silence familiar. Her new officer bars caught the glow not with ceremonial shine, but with the weight of something earned. She had learned not to fight storms head-on, but to fly through them, adjust trim, balance pitch, make turbulence just another condition to manage. Lead wasn't just a role. It was proof that persistence had clearance of its own. At the runway's edge, the desert night pressed in. She breathed once, steady. No speeches, no noise, just a quiet promise to keep moving forward. One climb, one landing, one sky at a time. Thank you for watching.